Welcome back to the Buddy Ruski Show. This is episode 2. If you haven't heard my interview with Nick Wallhauser, it was a real doozy. I think you'll enjoy it. So check that out on the page at buddyruski.com. But today I am very pleased to have my good friend Mandy Padgett on the show. Fresh off her trip from, I should say, Seattle.
That's right. I'm back.
Which sounds like it was a trip to remember and maybe one that takes her away from Durham.
Oh, no.
Kind of sad to say. So we may talk a little bit about that. But some of you may know Mandy and I actually hosted or co-hosted a show earlier this year called The Rundown. That was a really fun project. Who knows? Maybe The Rundown will make a comeback in some iteration at some point in the future.
Inside scoop there, Justin.
That's what the show is for. It's for the inside scoops, the secrets. Let's jump right into it. Mandy, you, although you're very entrenched in the Durham culture, are actually not a Durhamite.
No, I know.
Would probably be surprised to hear that. So tell us a little bit about kind of where you're from, your origin story, and how you got to Durham.
Okay. Do you want the
all the way back?
Yeah. Like that's a big
conception.
That's
all the way
conception.
to,
I'm not sure about conception. Somehow I was conceived in South Korea and then shipped over here because I'm adopted. Lived in Illinois till I was 4, and then my family moved to Burlington, North Carolina. My dad's a professor, got a job at Elon University, and we've been here since then. So I grew up in Burlington. It's like 40 minutes west of here, I guess. And that's my story. And then I went to Elon University. Yay.
Go Fighting Christians,
which is hilarious because they literally were the Fighting Christians until like 2000.
Oh, wow.
Which is like a long time. Like I grew up going to like the university and seeing the mascot who kind of looks like the Fighting Irishman.
Okay.
But it was the Fighting Christians. And that story, I think, is because Elon back in the day used to compete with a Quaker school.
Okay.
So in that area, and so they'd have like, I don't know, sports, basketball, whatever. And so it became the Christians versus the Quakers. And so that's where the Fighting Christians came from. But then they had a whole rebrand, became Elon College to Elon University, and became the Phoenix, singular.
Yeah. Probably a good choice on their part.
Although
I would love to see some vintage Fighting Christian team sweatshirts or something. That'd be...
It really did look like it really did look like the Fighting Irishman, right? Is that the Fighting Irish? What is
Fighting
this?
Irish?
Just Irish. Okay.
Singular, I guess. Okay. Irish is both singular and plural.
Yes, I'm just thinking about the mascot. He's kind of like this. Yeah. Dude had like the big beard and the curly hair, and he just who knows? It was a thing.
So you are not an only child, but the only adopted.
No, my brother's also adopted.
Oh, is he?
But we are not related by blood. So he was adopted in 85, and I was adopted in 87. Do the math. Y'all know how old I am now. But so he is a little over 2 years older than I am, and he was adopted and came to the United States when he was 8 months old. Okay. And then I came... Actually, I just had my quote unquote, when you're adopted, well, most families, you have like an arrival day kind of thing. So my arrival day was actually this October 30th.
Okay.
So I just, 31 years in the United States, people. Woo! My parents used to make jokes that were like, you arrived on the 30th and then we went trick-or-treating and we're pretty sure you didn't smile for like 4 months because you were so traumatized.
Oh, no.
Because it was like, new baby, new place. Probably didn't understand any English, obviously. I don't know, or any words or any sounds for that matter when you're that old. But that was just the long running joke, is that I was just like all stoic as a baby because I was scared from going out trick-or-treating.
How different you are now.
I know. Look at me.
Stoic, very animated personality. What was it like growing up in Burlington? I'm not too familiar with Burlington. I think the only other person that I know from there is maybe Tab. I'm pretty sure he's a Burlingtonite.
He is. He went to my rival high school. He went to Williams, which was the quote unquote city high school. And I went to Western, which was like in the country, not as country as maybe some others, but I went to Western. So it was Western versus Williams a lot of the time. Big rivalry, which is not a big deal. It's just high school sports. But I think there was a rumor that at one point when I was in high school, people from Western, before a football game, killed a deer because hunting season, it's the fall, and then dropped it in the Williams parking lot.
Yikes.
as like a, rivalry week thing. I don't know. But yeah,
high school, man.
I went to the country high school where kids took off for the first day of hunting season. You didn't go to school. You went hunting with your parents or whatever else,
It sounds like something people in Northern high school, that was one of Riverside's big rivals, was Northern. That sounds like something that, Northern Durham, close to like the city county line. They're out in the sticks.
Yeah, so, that is.
High school rivalries can get vicious.
I guess so. But no, yeah. It's good. I mean, Burlington, small town. Like, I think, moving to Durham, when I moved to Durham after college, it really made me, I think the last 8 years I've been here, have grown to appreciate diversity in your surroundings and diversity of like Durham, which is a great part about the city.
Was that not a big part of your upbringing in
No, Burlington? Your family, I just grew to realize a lot of things when I was younger that I wouldn't have noticed. Like, my parents would go out to eat. We'd go out to eat as a family, and people would kind of look at us because it's like 2 young Asian kids and 2 older white, people. So that was always kind of interesting. And then the older we've gotten, if we go out to eat, a lot of times people will ask 2 checks or 1 for when we eat dinner, because it might be, you don't know. So stuff like that. But also in my high school and most of my schools, there were some Asian families, but running tally in my high school 4 years that I was there were probably 6. We used to count. There were 6 Asian students. And Burlington, it's East Burlington is known as being, you go under a bridge and it's more or less where the black neighborhoods are. And then on the west side, it's more white neighborhoods. And so I'd never had any issues really growing up in Burlington, but I think it is definitely less racially diverse and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that happens in Durham too. Depends on schools, so neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff. But I do feel now that I feel more uncomfortable going home in this political climate and all the other kinds of things. I feel less comfortable going to Burlington than I would ever have noticed as a child. I think I was just ignorant to it, blind to it, grew up with it, didn't think anything about it. I would forget that I was Asian sometimes. If you don't look at yourself in the mirror and you're surrounded by a bunch of other people that are not Asian, you're just culturally, I'm from white middle class America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was having that same conversation yesterday, and it came up. We were talking about the use of the N-word, which is a very divisive topic, obviously. But there are so many folks that, depending on the culture that you grow up in, even if you're not African American or not Black, the N-word is used all around you all the time, and it's
way different context, though.
Yeah, right, sure.
Yeah,
but just the difference between kind of the culture that you were born into and then the culture that you are raised in, and how those things may or may not clash as you get older and are trying to figure out your own identity.
Well, I think, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I've had conversations with multiple other people about this, that I feel like adoptees and kids of mixed race have a lot of similar identity thoughts and issues. The only difference is, I think, I feel like personally for me, because I was adopted, I don't have ties to, the Korean background. But, if you have parents in your life, then at least culturally you have ties to both cultures.
Right.
But there's a sense of interesting identity that comes along with it. So yeah, I can imagine using the N-word or whatever else as culturally as as an example is you're raised in a certain culture, but you might also be something else. So I don't know. So people have told me that I can use it, and I was I've been in certain situations with certain friends, and they're like, "Oh no, you get the pass," and I'm I don't get a pass.
Right.
You don't get a pass to use that word. I'm saying I will never. It's fine.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother thing where it's people get quote unquote passes, and I'm no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't give out free. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. So you graduate, you end up at Elon, and you said your dad was a professor there.
I had my dad. I took my dad's class.
Oh, man. Was that a big reason why you chose to go to school there?
No, I mean, frank, honest, Elon is a really good school. I wanted, at the time when I was in high school, I really thought I wanted to be a TV news producer.
Okay.
Elon has a great broadcast communications program, specifically news-based. So free tuition I mean, still paid room and board, but you basically get a private school education for the price of public school education. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of all worked out. I grew up being like, I'm never going to Elon. It's not happening, Mom and Dad. I'm going to go to school like halfway across the country, far away. It's just never going to be that. And then it came down to applying to schools. And I was like, well, Carolina or Elon, they both have broadcast comm programs. But Elon, and all right, cool. It's good. It's really good. So
yeah.
I obviously did not do that as a career choice. I got to school and was like, these kids are crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and bypass TV news and just kind of found my way to just like normal video production. Yeah.
What does your dad teach, or what did he teach at the time?
He's still teaching. He is a journalism professor. So he teaches, his main courses are media law, actually. Media law is his big one. He used to teach a lot of media writing as well. He has a journalism background. And then I guess also does some other general studies courses. But yeah, journalism.
So what class? You took his media law class? I
took his media law class because it's like the best class. If anyone wants to look up George Padgett on Rate My Professor, he gets like really good ratings. I think he's a really great professor. He's like lecture based, plain black and white. He hands you a syllabus, hands you study guides for tests, and says, this is the only thing you have to study. There will be nothing outside of this. You just talk the whole time, debate things with your fellow students.
Media law, I was a mass communications major at Central and also really enjoyed my media law class. There's a lot of stuff there that, especially in this day and age, because the barrier to entry to starting blogs and websites, podcasts even, is so easy, you end up skipping a lot of those, the specifics around libel law and other things that
just the precedent that's been set throughout the years of building what the media atmosphere we currently live in.
Exactly. And in a newspaper, in a newsroom setting, you get that stuff not only in school, but you're surrounded by it every day in a newsroom. And if you don't have that technical training and you're just working from home as a blogger or a media personality, there's a good chance that you end up missing a lot of that stuff and can get yourself in trouble. So yeah, good on him to teach the important stuff.
Did you liked your law class?
I did. Yeah, because I felt like I was able to get a lot of the, I had an editor. I was working with Aaron Mandel at Clarion Content at the time. So I was able to learn a lot of the specifics around creating media, but it was the law and sort of the other things in the orbit of media that I wouldn't have gotten in my everyday life. So I did appreciate that class.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just remember the cases you have to like remember, but going through and be like, oh, at some point, and this is 10 years ago now, at some point these things didn't exist and someone had to do it. Someone did it first and then quote got in trouble.
Somebody really screwed up.
Yes, exactly. Someone got mad, quoted somebody wrong, and then we've got libel suits. Like who knew? At some point this happened.
Yeah. So you end up diverging from media journalism into standard video production. What made you make that transition?
Yeah, I kind of went through, talking about the whole college thing, I felt very lost when that happened. I studied abroad in London my spring semester sophomore year. And that was at that point I realized I didn't want to do television news, basically after my freshman year. And I had an internship with a post-production house that did a lot of 3D graphics in Soho. And that was really awesome because it showed me a world outside of this one that I had kind of built in my head. And after that, I almost just took a semester off or took a year off because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But Elon had, some digital art classes. So I wound up taking a lot of digital art stuff and kind of getting into that and incorporating video into that. And you can still get a broadcast degree without being in the news track. So instead of doing film, because they have film too, I basically just kind of went into that and thought that I would do 3D work, which was kind of like I did some Maya stuff, which is a 3D rendering program, and video, and thought I might do that stuff. But now I've just that's a lot of stuff that I didn't want to dive into later too. So now I'm just doing video production, which I like.
And when were you at Elon?
Graduated in 2009, so 05 to 09.
Because video, now it's everywhere.
It's pervasive.
You whether you're working with clients or you're just kind of scrolling through social media.
Like
video
everyone
is the
has a video
dominant
position
form, right, of communicating. And but that wasn't true at the time. I mean, social media was just coming around.
Like it started in 04. Facebook started 04. I mean, maybe a little before that, but I remember Elon was when Facebook went live to more than just X amount of schools. I got a Facebook in 05 and it was like pretty much brand new, right? Like,
well, and even the technology with phones, video was not, people weren't Snapchatting. They weren't doing Instagram stories. It was all text based still for the most part. The cameras, I don't remember what the megapixels were for cameras, but they were
so
not
bad.
Good.
I remember I had like an LG flip phone thing. You take photos and it just everyone was just green all the time.
Yeah. It was awful. So it doesn't seem as obvious to jump into video work maybe then as it does now, because there are so many positions in media for video creators. So you graduate from Elon in video production. What is it that you look to next and sort of where you want your career to go? Because there's a lot of different options for video in the field. And so, what are you looking at for your career?
I think, good points. I think when I graduated, it was not a good time to graduate. The recession was pretty strong then.
Yeah.
So there weren't a ton of jobs specifically just for random video stuff. It could have been, TV news, or moving to LA or moving to a big city and trying to make it happen, which a lot of people I graduated with did and now are successful doing stuff out there. But I wound up getting a job at Eurosport, and they had, because they were an online retailer, they were doing video stuff. So to sell things. So simple product videos, some commercial work, and then YouTube just basically uploading videos so people could see stuff. So it was all very basic, way less content based, like all media is now, all video is now. So it was really interesting to see that. So it took me a little while, probably took me about 10 months to get a job. And then I got a job and I started doing that, which I think was a really interesting place to be, to see the evolution of online web content. Because I feel like that's where I'm strongest now, is what is the norm now is what I'm strongest at, because it's what I've always done. I've always done short form videos for online purposes, whether that's retail or content based or whatever else. So starting in product videos, and then through the years getting to go on some first trips. I had a camera so they could send me on a trip, and I would film with my own personal camera and do some interviews. The first trip I ever did was to Puma headquarters in Germany. And it was for product line launch, and it was really cool because we got to interview designers, and that kind of just started to snowball. And so the last 4 years I was at the company, I was there for 7.5. The last 4 years kind of started really building that relationship with all of the brands and making content specifically for soccer.com that was interview based or, stuff like that, which you see all the time now, building brand image through video. So.
And had you moved to Durham at this point, or were you still in the Elon Burlington area?
Yeah. I stayed, let me think about this. I moved to Chapel Hill in 2010, and sometime in 2010, and then I moved to Durham, but 15501 Durham,
okay,
right there by New Hope Commons.
Yep.
I moved over there. So I've been in the Durham area, Durham Chapel Hill area for 8-ish years.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Cool.
I didn't really get into, I don't think how I made it into the downtown Durham scene, if it's a scene, we're calling it a scene, are we? Is through a coworker of mine who was friends with Salim in college.
Oh, okay.
And then Salim moved back. We moved back at about the same time, or moved to Durham at about the same time. And she was like, oh, you guys both like video stuff. You should be friends. And then we became really good friends. And then that's how that all kind of doors opened in that sense.
And he was coming from New York?
He was coming from Japan. He had just moved back from Japan. So I moved to Durham, and he moved back to North Carolina from Japan at basically the same time. I met him at a event for a fundraiser for the scrap exchange after the roof had caved in on their building. And I met him that night or the night, I don't know. I basically remember that was the first night we kind of all hung out in Corral Tune. Whoa, oops, sorry, Tune. Sorry, Fess. Jesus, I'm getting it wrong all over the place. Lord Fess?
That's on him.
All right.
That's not on us.
Okay. Yeah, so he performed, and that led into Salim being like making connections with him, and then they made Hulk Smash. Right. And so it was like these weird kind of things where I just remember it was like that was something that got a lot of traction, and like Salim, people were like, oh, that's a cool video, and like so then that kind of started all that for him. And I just remember, yeah, it's also where we kind of first hung out and met too. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a quick break here. I do want to get more into your life in the downtown Durham scene and some of the projects that you've worked on with people like Salim Reshamwala. A lot of you who've been following either one of us know Salim is Kid Ethnic. He does a lot of really cool stuff with video production and just kind of creativity in general. The guy is a wizard when it comes to creative projects.
Of all shapes and sizes.
Exactly. So we'll take a quick break and we'll get right back to it.
My style costs more than money. They just don't get it. It costs more than money. My style costs more than money. Get off my steeds. I will say please. Get off my beat. Stop stealing my breeze. I'm feeling too buzz for y'all to come kill it. Feeling too good for y'all to come near it. I don't wanna hear it if it ain't got soul. Ain't trying to rock it if it ain't got flow. Everybody wanna know how we do what we do. How much would it cost?
I'm back here with Mandy Padgett. We were getting into kind of post-college career, starting at soccer.com. Before we jump back into your time in Durham, I do want to ask you, through your work with soccer.com, I know that this is something very near and dear to your heart, is your shoe collection.
Oh boy.
Did that start before soccer.com, or did that come about because of the work you were doing and the access you had through Eurosport and that kind of thing?
Multi-tiered answer.
Okay.
I have always liked shoes, and I specifically remember my first pair of like sneakers that I was in love with. I think I was a freshman in high school, and I got a pair of red Puma suedes,
okay,
which is my love of Puma anyways. But red Puma suedes, they were literally a full size, if not size and a half bigger than what I needed. Like it was like a guy's, I don't know, like 7, and I'm like a guy's like 5.5, 6.
And
like,
was that just that was the only pair they had?
It was like it was like the smallest pair they had, and I really liked them, and I really wanted them, and so like I got them, and I wore them like to death. Like I fucking wore those things. Like, so sorry, but okay. But I did, and I loved them. So like that was kind of like the start of me really liking sneakers and like cons when I was a kid, and like through soccer.com. You wound up building collection. Right. I built a collection. I now have probably 70 pairs of sneakers.
Wow.
Which is a lot. I mean, they're not all like they're not like high end everything. Yeah. I mean, I have a few pairs of Jordans. I got some other nice shoes too.
We should have done a Cribs episode instead of a podcast. That would have been great.
I have like legit, I'm embarrassed about this. I think I have like 4 pairs of shoes that I've never worn. Which it happens, whatever else. But
I'm sure I have some runaway gear that's
never been touched.
Just sits in my closet. Yeah, it'll be vintage eventually, so I just need to hold on to it.
I don't know. Being that we worked with all the brands, Nike, Adidas, Puma, New Balance. When you would go on trips, when they would be in the office for meetings, anything like that, you couldn't wear other brands. Like,
oh, sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it just is not cool to be like, hey, Adidas is here for 3 days, or you're going to fly and hang out with people in Puma, but you're going to wear Adi gear, you're going to wear Nike gear. Like,
well, and that relationship in particular is a little... because of their origins, right?
Yes.
Like it would be.
Have you read that story yet?
I've skimmed through the Wikipedia page.
Okay.
I know a little bit about it. Yeah.
There's a book. There's a fun book.
Really?
There's a fun book about it. Yeah, the Dossler brothers.
Okay. Yeah. So for people that don't know this, and you could probably speak to this story better than I can. There were 2 brothers. I forget.
Adi and Rudolph. Rudolph. I think.
Okay. Yeah. Long story short, one started Adidas, one started Puma, and there was an original sort of
there was a
parent company
it's called the Dossler Brothers Shoes, or Dossler Shoes, because that's their last name. And in the small town outside of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the town, and it's
Herzogenaurach,
okay. Whatever. Herzo. You say Herzo, it's short. There is a river, and the brothers grew up there. I think it was like World War I. They went off to war, whatever else, but they had like shoes. They were building shoes. They come back, start a company together. And the rumor is, from the tour that I got at Puma, from this guy who's lived in this town forever, he was like, one of the brothers might have cheated with the other brother's wife.
Oh, wow.
That was the rumor. That's the rumor. Still being passed on today. So then the brothers had a huge falling out. And one of them on one side of the river created Adidas, so Adi Dassler. It's not All Day I Dream About Sports. It's his name.
That blew my mind when I found out that wasn't
right?
True.
Because we all knew that. We all thought All Day I Dream About Sports or soccer or whatever else you were doing. But it's Adi Dassler. And then Rudolph, whatever, started Puma.
Pretty powerful shoe family there.
Super powerful shoe family. They were like the first people to really try to get, I think the Dassler Shoe Company was one of the first companies to try to create shoes for sports. Okay. Is what happened there. And so then both the companies broke off from that.
Maybe we'll try and get some behind the scenes of Mandy's shoe collection. Do you have, outside of your red suede Pumas, do you have a favorite? I know you're a big Adidas fan.
I like Adidas.
Another pair that you're really attached to?
I don't think you can go wrong with classics. Like I rock Superstars all the time and stuff like that. I have Boost, but honestly, hot take, Boost is not nearly as comfortable as people like to say it is. Okay. For me, for my feet at least. I think it's too soft.
Yeah, I don't. I think the only. I own some Adidas basketball shoes now. Actually, that are pretty nice.
You have some cool shoes. The shoes you have, I think, are all pretty cool.
I've come around. Yeah. Working at Runaway really helped a lot. I should do some before and after photos of me, like in high school and pre-Runaway, and then what I got into afterwards. My favorite,
not not trying to make fun of you or anything.
That's okay.
But how you told me in previous conversations years ago, how when you were younger, you realized that girls were not going to be into like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, had to make that conscious choice to be like, no, get into some cooler things, Justin.
Yeah, which, that ended up being like Ralph Lauren polos and khaki pants, which I transitioned out of that pretty quickly. I was not comfortable. And the girls still didn't like me back then anyway. Aww. So
you got a good one now.
It was all for naught.
You got a good one now.
Yeah, I did pretty well for myself. When you're looking for a project to work on or a client to work with, what is it about your style that you think you want to shine in the project? And then on the client side, who is it that really attracts your attention when trying to work with people? Because you worked with soccer.com for what, 8 years?
Yeah, close to 8 years. Close to 8 years and doing stuff for them. So it's interesting. It was an interesting transition for me to go from working for a company and always doing little side projects on the side, freelance stuff here and there, or working with Salim, but working for someone else's vision and then going freelance and I feel hesitant to say things like that I'm doing my own work, because what I actually enjoy doing most is video editing. And I can do all the other stuff too, but what I enjoy most is editing. And since leaving soccer.com, I've worked pretty much exclusively with Salim for his company, which has been really fun. But I think like we have similar aesthetic and stuff that we like. Like Salim has a very fun, informative way about creating video. If I had to describe it, it's going to be a bit funky. There's going to be color pops. There's going to be hip hop influence. And then also on the side of it, he comes from a journalistic background, so he likes to do stuff that's informative as well, has a takeaway of some kind. But I think our styles are similar.
Did you start out that way, or do you think having worked with him over time, you found places where you clicked, and so the work that you were doing tended to lean in more into that direction when you were like, hey, we really work well together. I have this project this client's interested in. Let's tag team it this way, and vice versa. Because it does seem to me that, especially earlier on in Durham, before this big upswing in opportunity and just growth in general in Durham, the clients that you could get, the pool was pretty small. And so there was probably a lot of opportunity for overlap in the projects you were working on?
Clients here in companies here in Durham, or people, musicians, whoever, I think a lot of people want to be experimental, and having a style of video being so big now, having a style of video that can represent, like, can exist in a corporate realm, but have elements that are fun and a little less corporate, which I think is something that is my aesthetic. Like, I like clean things. Like, I like things to look nice and look really put together, but I don't want it to have that feel of you're watching, I don't know, informative information video at the beginning of your training. You know what I mean? Like, so I want it to be fun, like music influence, all that kind of stuff. And I think there are a lot of clients in Durham or this area that want that, whether or not they think they want that. Maybe let me just put it that way. I think
you're onto something there.
They think they want it. And so Kid Ethnic, or a lot of our friend group that creates films in this area, I think all have a style that is that can be fun and a little different, right? And so it
satisfies
works well.
both needs.
Yes.
It satisfies the client's need for the type of information they're trying to convey in their video, but then it also satisfies the creator where they don't feel like they're being stifled by the box. And Salim, something that he talks about a lot is, sometimes being put in a box isn't a bad thing. There's creativity within being boxed in and having limitations. And something I admire about his work and your work as well is how you guys are able to build stories and convey messages without the need for like big production. There's a lot of MacGyver-esque approaches to doing video, and one of the things that I had the pleasure of working, I want to say that you were there. I know this was one of Salim's videos back in the day, was for LinkedIn. We did a how-to video for filming
with an iPhone.
With phones.
I've seen the video multiple times, but yeah.
And seeing him being a part of that project and seeing how that came about, it was literally a video about how to do the thing that he's so good at. He's like giving away his secret sauce,
and how you do it on an iPhone, and how you can make things work with nothing. Like,
that's if you haven't seen it, you should. I'll post it on the page. But yeah, it's such a cool. People think about video and they're like, oh, I have to have all these techniques, and I have to have a big studio, and I need all these. I mean, we live in the age of CGI and special effects, but you can do really effective video with next to nothing. Going back to my time at soccer.com and working with Salim too, it's like, working with Salim, we have like a mantra. It's like, keep it simple, but do it well. Is like, you can succeed so much better if you don't overshoot or over try to do something, because ultimately 9 times out of 10 you're gonna fail, right? Yeah, that's the journalist in him,
right? It's like 9 times out of 10 you're gonna fail. So if you keep it small within certain bounds, but you like knock it out of the park, that's what you should be doing. And like at soccer.com, we didn't have a big budget for a lot of things. You might think we would. No, like video team had like nothing. So we were hand building like dolly systems with, there was this dolly thing that got built that was literally like giant PVC pipe. And my old boss was like, DIY everything. So giant PVC pipe, 2 tubes connected at the ends. And I literally was like dragging like a wooden like board across it that as a dolly. So like it was me physically dragging something like 10 feet to get like a dolly look. Or we used cake turners for shoe presentation. So like you'd stick a plexiglass on top of a cake turner like for baking, and it was electronic, and then that's what rotated the shoes. Like there's like so many things you can do, simple lighting, and if you do it, keep it small, you can still make something that looks awesome. Is it crazy how much people think? Look at the vlogging that happens today. Like vloggers, sure, they're using maybe stabilizers of some form or drones, but like overall, people do some really awesome stuff with not a lot of equipment.
Yeah, I actually think that's the majority of people are using those types of techniques to do the type of production they want, because I mean, we're creatives by nature, and specifically that people that work in creative fields, their resources are limited, and so they have to be thinking about new ways, new innovative ways to produce the kind of work they want to do. So you're at soccer.com for 8 years. Yeah. Recently transitioned out of that job.
It's been a year now. Been out for a year. Woo! Beginning of November was a year.
Welcome to, well, I guess you were there before me, the Freelance Life.
I know.
What has that transition been like for you, and kind of what are you looking for now as a freelancer moving away from corporate work?
Yeah, I think finding clients that at least can appreciate the vision that, that stylistically, like what either I want to create. You can be a freelancer and everyone talks about this, you sacrifice creative freedom to pay bills, but at the same time, like if I'm not slightly interested in something at all, there's no way I'm going to take that on, because I would find no reason to do it. And then it would just be painful. And I don't really care how much money you could pay me. If it's painful for me to do, I just don't want to do it. Right. But the transition has been really good. I feel like for a long time, I was just not happy at my old job, and being able to come out on your own or with friends. And luckily I've been working with Salim and it's been amazing. Doing projects that are cool and fun that still pay the bills has been really interesting.
Changed? What was it that changed for you?
Like mentally, or
just
what do you mean?
At a certain, a lot of creatives end up making that jump from being in as part of an organization to wanting to freelance. And my guess is there is either one moment or sort of a period of time where you start to feel like, I don't really want to do this work anymore. So what was there a point for you where you finally were like, I need to move on. I need to do something different?
Yeah, I think that definitely happened for me. It was probably 2 years before I left, so it took me a minute to get out, but it was a constant cycle of feeling unsatisfied or feeling like it's, stagnant, right? I felt very stagnant, and then maybe something would happen. It would ramp up a little bit. I'd feel like I was learning something new, doing something different, and then it would be stagnant again. And it was kind of this cycle that almost felt like an abusive relationship. Not really, but like I can't compare it, obviously, but I shouldn't compare it. But it was like something good would happen, and that would satisfy me enough through the bad. Yeah. And then it would get to a point where I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. I feel like I can't be creative. This is not my life passion. No matter how much I like soccer as a fan, I did not grow up playing it. So it's kind of hard to get into this mentality of like this player and being excited about stuff all the time. Yeah. So yeah, I think it just got to a point where it's like creatively, nothing I am doing is satisfying me or satisfying the company. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I hit a wall where it was like, I'm not doing anything good for the company anymore, and it's not doing anything good for me. And I really just need to leave.
It's interesting because you have access to so much. As a lot of what we look for as freelancers is, resources to do the projects that we want. Yeah. That's the hardest part. It's not coming up with ideas. It's having the resources to make them happen. And in corporate America and a lot of these corporate jobs, that's what you have. That's kind of the beauty of the gig, is you have access to things you might not normally have as a freelancer, but then to
create what they want, not what you want,
right?
Which is the hard part.
Yeah, there's only so many people I think that have found that middle ground, that balance. What challenges have you faced both as a woman and as an Asian American in your career as a videographer, as a freelancer, whether it's relationships with other people, with coworkers or clients, just being able to get work in general, kind of being overlooked for things that you feel like you've earned and you deserve?
I think yes. It's
You're
like
welcome
a hard
to put anybody on blast.
Yeah, no,
you have to, but
no, I don't want to. It's not that I'm putting anyone on blast. Video is a career. Most people, I think, know it's a male-dominated industry for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. I think across the board, it's pretty male-dominated, and in Durham, it definitely is. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of females doing amazing things, and specifically in the documentary field. I think there's a lot of women in this community that are creating awesome work, but that may or may not be what I'm doing, what I've been doing. So kind of the route that I've been taking is less film, less documentary, and like I was saying, short form online. And a lot of people doing that happen to be guys. I'm not sure where or how that happened, but specifically in the center of downtown, I feel like there are a lot more guys. So sometimes that's hard, but I do my own thing, and I think people know that I'm good at what I do. So I don't know if I've ever been overlooked for something specifically in Durham, but I think there are people that have been around that are more well known because they've been doing a lot more work, and it's not a bad thing. It's like they've been here and they've been working, and so those are the people that are known. But I do think it's hard. What I wish sometimes is that people that are in the community that have been very successful, and I think Salima's really good about this. I don't know about the other people, but when you're building a set, when you're building a crew, we all want to work with people that we know and are comfortable with. There's a team. Like, I know people that do certain jobs that I trust to do those jobs. And if I was going to build out a team, I'd want to hire those people. But unfortunately, I find that a lot of times for people in the area, it might be all guys.
Right.
And so what I wish would happen moving forwards is just that people are conscious of those decisions and saying, okay, let's build a team that is more diverse. Let's find those people. Maybe I haven't worked with them before, but let me build a team that isn't just the same 7 dudes that I always work with, right, who happen to pretty much always be 7 white guys.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting people on blast. It's just being conscious of those decisions. Yeah, I know it's going to be a lot easier to work with the people that you're comfortable with, because that's what we all want to do.
Right.
We all want to work with people we're comfortable with and that we know do a good job at what they do. And I'm not saying they aren't. It's just, come on, like, let's mix things up a little bit and see what happens. And I think that's something that's been interesting, is just watching that happen over and over and over again and being like, yo, like, there's a really cool woman down the block who's doing that same thing. Or like, maybe there's someone who has less experience, but let's give them a shot and see. And, you know. Yeah.
It brings fresh perspective into your work as well when you work with people that you haven't worked with before or are slightly different, have a slightly different approach than you. We went through that same challenge at Runaway where, to your point, it's like, okay, we're going to have a release party or we're going to do this type of event. Who are we going to get to DJ or who are we going to get to come participate? And we immediately run to like, okay, we have our 5 friends who are all DJs, let's just invite them, it'll be fun and easy. And we got some pushback from it, and I'm glad that we did. I appreciate that people in Durham are generally willing to hold each other accountable and not in a negative way or
just like, let's try better, guys.
Yeah,
we know you can.
Right. Yeah. It's a little constructive criticism, and I can understand that it's much more difficult when you are the person that is being neglected or being overlooked to rationalize that than it is the person in the position of power. And
again, it's actually not even me, because I know where I've been and I know what roles that I've played in the work that I've created. And I'm not the one who's always in the forefront of the work that I've done, which is partially how I like it. Like, it's, my personality. I'm not one to want to step into the limelight very much. So that's where I find that video editing is very comfortable for me. I like telling stories, like building stories, but like, I can kind of hide around and do whatever. So like, I totally understand that. I'm just thinking in general. I just wish people would understand that those are the choices they're making. It's not that they're choosing the wrong people. They're actually probably choosing the right people because they know that they do a good job.
Right.
But it's like, every time make that decision to not call those same people and see what happens to the film community here, to the video community here. Because I think it would expand. I think it would.
Well, now that you have this platform, the 20 people that might listen to this, who do you want to give a shout out to that you feel like maybe doesn't get as much shine?
That's hard. I don't know.
You don't have to capture everybody, but just if there's anyone that come, I'm sure there are some folks that come top of mind that you're just like, yeah, they do really, really awesome work, and I want to make sure that people know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Becky, even though she had the platform,
love Becky.
I know, even though she had the platform of Runaway and stuff like that, I think she has a like super creative, interesting kind of way of thinking, which leads to her work being kind of like cool and interesting. And I think she may have had a harder time. I don't know. But I think she's someone who's doing friend throw. She's doing some cool video work, and she's got a lot of vision. She'll make it happen, though.
Yeah.
She'll totally make it happen.
When you guys have worked together.
Yeah, when we've worked together on stuff before, which has been like more abstract and different. That video for Mbala was really fun. And
which one was that?
That was Illegal. Okay. It was called Illegal. And so the whole idea was that Mbala had this vision of, Mimi had a vision of, and talked with Becky about it, of like a kind of a commune of women who are just kind of like doing these awesome things. And I got brought in on the project and wound up shooting it with James, Saki Boy. James doesn't live here anymore, but I think his stuff's really like gotten a lot better. That's hard. There's been a lot of people that have lived here but no longer live here too, right?
Which is challenge.
It's a challenge in itself, which I also might be leaving.
Yeah.
But oops.
Yeah, jeez.
Holding it down for the city. I love Durham forever. Yeah, I don't know. That's hard. There's like some young people.
Well, and to your point about James, giving especially younger up-and-comers the opportunity to learn and to flourish, that's how you build a stronger community of any kind, not just in creativity, but in general. We talk about this a lot with the startup culture in Durham and across the country, is that because there are these walls that are put up, that there are these huge barriers, that you end up with the same types of people. And so the fact that video is a mostly white male dominated industry has a lot to do with the fact that if they're considering, even if they are going to go outside of their network or outside of their normal 7 people that they bring on a crew, if the young person they bring up is also a white male, even if they're different or new or whatever, then it doesn't really expand the pool of opportunity across the board. So, and
it's such a hard like nut to crack too in a lot of ways. I mean, I think it's indicative of like what's happening across the board in our country. But we say these things, and I see the problem. I'm unclear of the best ways to fix it, because how do we reach? I would like to see more women, some younger. I know this one girl, Mashla, who's really awesome and cool. She worked on the Hype set with like Holland. And she went to Carolina. She interned out in LA, and the DP Bruce Cole for Hype, who's also awesome, she was on a set with him out there, I think as a PA. She's really cool. I don't know, Salim's been working with her on some projects. I'm just using her as an example because I can think of her, but she's young and she's hungry. And I'm like, how do we get her in? And how do people get in without having been fully established, I guess, if that makes sense. Like there's you've got to have a portfolio of work to be considered, which is understandable for anything. You got a resume. If you're going to get hired for a job, it's got to line up and the people want to hire you. So I get that. But I also am like trying to figure out like the best ways to like bring myself or like younger people. I'm less experienced in certain areas that I want to get more experience in. And it's like, how do we do that? And I'm not quite sure of exactly
everyone
the best
wants work
ways.
Experience, but no one wants to give someone without work experience a shot.
Right. And I don't know if you've been feeling that. Like, I don't know how you've been doing with your whole transition to freelance and stuff like that, or if you've experienced that from a younger age and growing up. But yeah, like, how do we do that? Because a lot of people are small. We're not a huge market, and everyone who's doing video, it's all small business, private owned small business. So like everyone's on their grind, and it's awesome. And like we can all come together and build each other up. But yeah, how do we get those people in, Justin? I don't know. And where are they? Like if there's young dudes or young other people that want to know more, I'd like to be able to help them, or I'd like to be able to help open doors for people. I think Salim does an amazing job at that. He's very conscious of that kind of stuff. Unlike other people, I think, that I know just from personal experience. But yeah, if everybody was willing to do that, I think it could be a really interesting thing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to shout out Black Space because they do a really good job of bringing up the next generation of creators. They just had an album come out that was completely produced in-house by the students and young people at Black Space. They do a lot of video and other audio projects as well. So I'm not sure of the specifics of that model, but if there are other things like that, that seems to be a way, because there are a couple of folks from Black Space that also worked on the Hype set as well. Yeah, shout out to Holland, man. Really just like giving everybody
Hype was
a shot.
Amazing. I'm sorry. I thought that was so fun. Like to work on the set was really great. The crew was amazing. Like everybody that was involved. Yeah, no. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so fun. And going to the premiere was great.
That was really fun.
What'd you think?
Of the premiere or the show itself?
The show itself, the premiere, everything.
I mean,
you're from Durham, so like that's the reason I asked. It's kind of
and for the sake of disclosure, I helped Holland.
Yeah, we
both helped Holland.
A little partial here.
Yeah. Some of the scenes were actually filmed here in this exact room or in this house.
Which ones?
Yeah, all the scenes of Smiles in his kitchen, kind of going through his mail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Over there.
Yep, right over there.
I see it. All right.
People that hear this won't see it.
Sorry.
But,
just imagine a kitchen,
visualize.
guys.
Well, and they'll soon be able to see Hype for themselves if they weren't at the premiere. But I thought that was awesome.
No, that kind of blew, Holland and Bruce coming together. Andy, who is one of the leads, but then also producer, and some other people who now Fonte is an executive producer. That's pretty fun. Yeah, no, that was like an example of me getting inspired by the people in our community in a lot of ways, just because small budget, crew, everyone was hungry, willing to do stuff.
Not literally starving.
Not literally starving, but like had drive to achieve something great. And I think the end product was really great. And so I was like super proud to be a part of it and super happy and proud of everyone involved, because that was really cool.
I think it really speaks to the talent level that's here, even though we're not in a large metro area. I just, going back to folks like Salim and yourself as well, being able to do more with less is just kind of a part of what it means to be in Durham. And so that's something that I continue to appreciate about the work here.
And think about, I mean, I know you're from here, but, born and raised, but I think since I've moved here, so I moved here and Motorco wasn't open yet. None of that area, Rigsby, was not open, right?
What people think of downtown Durham had
all
not
of that was so cool. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm an OG. I'm just saying I moved here right before all of that opened. So seeing all of that, seeing the takeoff of a lot of our friends' careers, seeing where everyone has gone and where we've all grown, it's so crazy to think about 7 years ago what we were all doing, all of us, Runaway. I don't know. I mean, I can't give other examples, but I mean, that's just a good one that's visual for people, right? Just thinking about all that kind of stuff has been really interesting. I think it has led to us having a very strong community here of good, awesome, creative people. And Hype is something that's come out of that, which is really great. And I guess I'm talking about this because I'm thinking about moving. So I know all this exists here and I know it's great. And I know it could be even bigger than it currently is. So
I think that's maybe a marketing challenge for the creatives is not only doing the work, but then how do we get eyes on it, not just in our own communities, but folks outside of Durham to pay attention to what's happening here. Yeah, it's sad to think that you may move away, maybe not permanently, but at least for the time being. I can understand the itch. I was gone and had a great time up in the Northeast and got to spend a weekend in Montreal as well.
Beautiful.
Which is,
so
if you ever get a chance, if you're thinking about trying to travel internationally, Canada, not that far away.
Quebec, you go to Quebec and it's basically like you're in France. Yeah. So if you want to feel like you're in France, just go to Quebec. And then hit up Toronto on your way home, and boom, you got it done.
Maybe not this time of year.
Maybe not this time of year.
The summer was pretty pleasant. But Mandy, I want to say thank you for being on the show and just for what you have represented here in Durham in the creative scene. It's been a pleasure to work alongside you with the Rundown and other Runaway things and plenty of projects outside of that, but also just to be able to call you a friend. So thanks again for being on episode 2 of the Buddy Ruski Show. That is going to be it for us today. If you haven't listened to episode 1 with Nick Wallhauser from Roundhouse, definitely check that out. You can do a little binging when this one goes up, do them back to back. If you haven't checked out the Patreon page as well, take a look at that. Consider subscribing to that to support this show and some other projects that I have in the works. That's patreon.com/Buddy Ruski. You can find me on all social at Buddy Ruski, pretty much anywhere on the internet.
It's Buddy not Ruski, y'all. It's not Ruski.
It's I actually didn't know this was like a thing back in the day, but Ruskis apparently were like Russian agents.
Really?
The Ruskis, yeah. Everyone during the Red Scare was afraid of the Ruskis. So I'm much more friendly.
You're not a Soviet spy.
No. Although I may have some communist tendencies, but as Mandy said, it is Buddy
Not even
Ruski.
Socialist, communist. You just went straight to communist.
Yeah, hardcore. Where can people find your work, Mandy?
Mandy Padgett is my Instagram account. It's mostly photos, though. I'm trying to get in photography again at some point. I'm working on it, Justin. I'm working on my online presence. But yeah, Mandy Padgett. Check me out.
You're doing so much work for everyone else. You've neglected your own.
One day, I have a Tumblr that's got videos on it, but it's someday old school. Just quick, easy, down and dirty, quick link. But I'm working on a website, full website. So one day it will be up.
Well, we'll make sure to share that around. Again, thanks for listening. This has been another episode of the Buddy Ruski Show. We'll see you guys next week.